Would you like to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Speakeasy and master connector Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on this planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Woke up cold one Tuesday. I'm looking tired and feeling quite sick. I felt like there was something missing in my day-to-day life.
Welcome everyone to another amazing episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have a woman that gives clients an edge in the moments that matter. Her superpower is her ability to quickly zero in on the fragmented pieces of your brand and then beautifully curate a more powerful image that helps you prosper. She's the head of Prosperous Image. She's the best-selling author of Strategically Suited, love that name, and loves to ride horses when she can, when she's not being a mom and doing all the fun things she does in Charleston, South Carolina. Coming to us from Charleston, South Carolina, I bring you Leigh Hayward. Leigh, welcome to Thrive Loud.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Excited to have you. I love people who are all about branding and image and keeping all this stuff together. Let's do a quick rewind here to bring our listeners up to speed. Leigh, if you could, share how what you're doing now, how Prosperous Image became your gig.
Yeah, so this is sort of my favorite part about being an entrepreneur is all these things that seem like pointless moments in your life sometimes add up and then you're like, oh, interesting. So I'm not going to take you super far back, but I will take you to fourth grade. And my best friend was going to a new school. And for whatever reason, I decided that the key to her success in this school was ensuring that she had 5 days, like a whole week's worth of very cool outfits. So I don't even think she had a choice in the matter. I went to her house. I mapped out, here's what you're going to wear. I hung it on those like old school dry cleaning hangers that had the paper and I like wrote on it for an insurance policy in case something fell off. And lo and behold, she had an amazing first week of school. Now, she is quite a cool girl. So, you know, who's to say if it really was my fourth grade outfit building, but it led to me starting to realize the power of your image, and everything and everyone has an image. And when you actually use it strategically, it's kind of amazing what can happen. And I was really blessed to have a very fun career in sales as my first act. And I did two parts in sales. I was first a merchandiser. So my job was to sell through. So everything that the sales reps brought into, all the product that was brought into the store, it was my job to make sure it left the store. And that was all about creating an experience for the customer that made them want to buy it. And then I also had the experience of being a sales rep. So really attaching image to growth and a sales trajectory, just, it excites me. I love it.
Fragmented pieces of your brand. This is your ability, your superpower. You can zero in and find it. Can you share with the listeners what you mean by that? Obviously, people have pretty good branding. They've got certain theses, but I want to understand the broken pieces. What are the broken pieces to you, and help explain that to the listeners so they can understand, so they could look at how important the overall brand picture is and what potentially might not be connecting.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. I think as entrepreneurs and leaders, depending on, you know, which niche you're in, we're all sort of checking boxes at certain times of growth. And you're doing exactly what you think you should do in that moment to get to the result that you want. But typically you are building your brand elements sometimes separately. Sometimes they're built all together, but a lot of times things like, let's decide what our team is going to wear. Let's decide how they're going to answer the phone. Let's decide how we are going to show up as leaders. Let's decide what our updated photos on the website are going to look like. They're all decisions made at separate times. And what happens is you end up with this sort of fragmented positioning that isn't exactly being perceived in the way that you think it is. And so my job really is to be able to sort of see that gap and show you, okay, this is the positioning you desire in your market. This is what's being perceived. And how do we close that gap so that you actually get that growth trajectory and the positioning that you want?
Leigh, are we talking about from clothing to image to the way we look, or are we also talking about from logos to brands to websites to storefronts to whatever it might be. Help me understand like the space that you help beautifully curate.
Yeah. So at the Prosperous Image, we focus on the 5 most powerful sections of your brand. And it starts with the personal brand. So that is all about clothes and how you are showing up, because as a leader, everything that you are doing is being watched and your team is showing up one step below you because you're setting the standard. So it always starts with your personal brand. And then it sort of goes around in what we like to call our Prosperous Image circle, where you then look at how cohesive your team looks with the brand, what your online persona looks like, what the space that you're actually doing business is communicating to the client, whether it's, literally a little Zoom box or the space where people are coming in. And then the actual experience that clients are having. And so when you align all of those things, and this is the most important part, you have to align all of those things to the vision and why that you have for the company. You create this powerful essence that clients really feel and want to be a part of.
Strategically suited, by the way, such a good name. I can't get enough of that. It's funny because I came from a traditional corporate world for many, many years, where we always were dressed to impress. And this was in the early 90s all the way through into the early 2000s. The internet came out, casual wear had changed a lot, and that almost became the cool thing to do. We could thank lots of tech execs from putting on black looks or black jackets or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And then obviously it's changed and continues to morph as fashion or other looks have. But the workplace has been interesting. I'd love you to give a little bit of an understanding and your take on what really works. Like, because it doesn't always have to be, like, to your point, like a specific uniform or brand, or obviously in some cases that is applicable, but in other cases it might be an overall brand perception or the level and the dress up or dress down attitude that comes from a company. I'd love to hear how you think about this when you're looking at certain things and how that brand is portrayed as the image of the organization, either whether you're working at it, what you get the feel there, how the cultures develop, or how other people see it.
Yeah, it's a great question. And, the word image sometimes has, a lot of baggage attached to it. Like, it doesn't matter what I look like. It should be, the service that I provide or the experience that they're having. And that's all well and good, but it does matter. And it is the thing that helps people say, okay, yes, I'm in the right place, or, ooh, you're going to have to work a lot harder to show me that I'm in the right place. And so I really like to think of it as your brand speaks a language, and your specific business has a language that you speak as the leader and your whole team also speaks. And so we have to create clarity around like what that language is. And then we show up matching that. So if the language is, super fancy pants, then we aren't going to show up in just, t-shirts and ratty jeans. So you have to really make sure everything is aligned. And what was interesting in the first part of this, when I first started this business, I only was doing the clothing side of this. And so I was going into people's closets and I was getting rid of stuff. It was sort of back to my 4th grade, forcing my friend to have outfits made by me. But what I started noticing was I would get to the point of people's closets where it was like their work wear, and they were like, oh, that's just work. It doesn't even matter. Like they didn't even care. Or I would hear stuff like, well, you should hear what my boss wears. And like I said a minute ago, they were like, so I'm totally excused to wear that because you should see what they wear. And it's really, whether you are the leader, whether you are working your way up, it's just the superpower that helps you show up as your best version of yourself. Like, I personally believe that I'm here on this planet to help people activate their potential. And I happen to do it by these sort of aesthetic pieces of the brand. And so if you could literally activate your potential so that it's easier for you to make an impact and do all the things that you desire by tweaking what you wear, I'm kind of like, why wouldn't you? You don't have to wear uncomfortable or, stuff that's not you. The name of the game is authenticity.
Let's do this. I have had numerous, hundreds thought leaders, speakers, authors, people who go on stage. I myself go on stage. I have a whole network of people that are fellow professional speakers who I see, and their brand when they're on stage or when they're at an event is very much represented, whatever it might be. The style of the clothing that they wear, from the glasses color that they wear, or a certain look or hairstyle or lack of hairstyle that they might have to deal with. All right. So when you are looking at someone's personal image, let's go back to that fourth grade version. You were finding really good outfits that were cool. Let's talk about today. What do you do to figure out, and I'm going to use your language here, what the best strategic suit, pun intended, is for the people that you work with? I want to know, what's the steps that you break down, and how do you connect their brand, their image, what they do, what they deal with, so that people who are listening, by the way, we have lots of thought leaders that listen to this program and deal with this, and they're all trying to figure out how I'm supposed to look or what I'm supposed to wear or certain things. Tell me what you do to help decode what's the best fit.
So number one is we remove the should of the equation. Most of us started dressing in a way because that was what you should do for this industry, or that was what you should do because now you're an adult and you should wear a suit, or whatever the case may be. So we remove the should from the equation, and I make people actually start at the beginning, and we really look at the trajectory of where are you trying to go? What is sort of the ultimate vision that you have for yourself? And so we take that plus the impact that you need to make on the person that you're in front of. If you're on stage, your job is to have connection with a very specific type of person in that audience. And so how can you stand on that stage in a way that speaks to them so that they feel connected, but then you also feel connected to yourself in a way that's very authentic and real? And one of the most simple exercises is to ask yourself this question: how do you want to feel? That's the first question I ask somebody. People are like, I'm going on this stage. This is the situation, all the things. And my first question is, how do you want to feel? There is no part of this equation where I ask you, how do you want to look, until we have nailed down the exact feeling that you want on that stage. And then I make you eliminate what I call the givens. Don't tell me that you want to be comfortable, because that's a given. We're not going to ever send anybody up on stage uncomfortable, because that will come across in their talk. Or the other given is confident. If we get it right and you truly can, extract those feelings that you really want, confidence and comfort should be givens.
All right, Leigh, you have your own prosperous image to look after. So brain surgeons can operate on their own brains when it comes to the image that you portray or that you look for and the way that you want to represent yourself. How do you drink your own Kool-Aid? And how do you take your own brand image so that it's portrayed in a way that represents it? Because I do recognize that someone who's responsible for prosperous image has to maintain a pretty prosperous image, which is a lot of upkeep, I would imagine. So share with everybody, I guess, how you approach your own brand and the way that you're seen in the world.
Well, that's a great question. I'll start with this very quick story that really shifted this for me. This was 15 years ago in the beginning of my career. And there was a coach who asked me why I dressed the way I did. And I was like, oh, I've got this. I can give you a dissertation on the why. I had my words. And one of them was approachable. And so then he asked me this: would you dress the same way if you already had achieved the success and vision you told me you just wanted? And I was like, oh, definitely not. I would be more badass. I would be more fun. It would be a little bit more bold. And it was in that moment where I realized how easy it is to sort of fall into the trap of thinking we need to show up in a way for others. Yeah. And so that's what I try and sort of bodyguard within myself. Now, I am very lucky to have a very good friend who's also a very successful entrepreneur who is obsessed with fashion. And so we love to do that sort of thing together. And she's very happy to tell me if I'm, going the wrong way. But here's the thing I really want people to know is it is sort of an interesting pressure to have an image business, because there are, in my book, I talk about keeping your car clean. There's a whole chapter on a lawyer who showed up to my house with bird poop all over his car. And so I think, oh God, my car's dirty. I got to go wash it. I'm out of alignment, right? But it's not about perfection. That's the key to anything around image, whether you're talking about personal brand or any of these pieces. It's about consistency. Yeah. And that's where the power comes from. And then we can ramp up, your perfection as you desire. But the real serum for the trajectory of growth, I believe, comes from the consistency.
I love asking guests this question. Want to see where this goes. Hey, you're an entrepreneur. You've written a great book. You've got a great message. You've got a good business. Means you're thriving on most days. Yet we all have those days when we're not quite kicking on all cylinders and we're a little off our game. Leigh Hayward, when you have trouble thriving, is there a practice you seek or an individual you seek out to help get yourself back on the thriving track?
Well, I hands down all of my career have believed in mentorship. So, I have amazing people who have gotten me to where I am and are helping me to get where I want to go. But one of the simplest things that I've really noticed is the power of environment. And I really find for myself, again, this is not about perfection, but environment is a thing that can really help me thrive. Something as simple as, having my car cleaned or, making sure my desk isn't a total disaster is one of these tiny little shifts that can take a day and ramp up that thrive meter just a little bit to put you in the right direction.
I like it. Let's do the admin part of the show. Share with the listeners all the places people can find you, websites, URLs, social handles. We will put it in the show notes. And it gets way more engagement when they hear it from you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So would love to connect with everybody on Instagram. It's at Prosperous Image. And anytime you message me there, I always respond. So feel free to do that. And you are welcome to explore a little bit more and find some resources to help you with your own image at www.prosperousimage.com. And Strategically Suited, you will find on Amazon. And the children's book that I wrote recently called Mirror Friends is actually on my site, theprosperousimage.com. And the reason it's on Amazon is because Amazon's paper is not up to brand standards. And so I have to reprint and figure that out.
I like that. Well done. Excellent. And we have a lot of people who've written children's books. I love that. I think, and it has unique takes on it, which is awesome. Before we go down Fun Street here, let's, this just flashed through my mind as you were saying this. You mentioned your social handles, and obviously there is a brand image that we all have on our digital footprint, if you would, whether it's our Instagram pages, our LinkedIn brands and whatnot. And there's a fine balance between trying to portray the brand image you want. If you are the brand and it's your image, that's what's being represented there. People have professional lives and social lives and personal lives that might be totally far apart, or whether it's on brand or not. I'm asking this question more from your opinion, not as an expert in this, but just your take as it relates to what you share, because everything we put on any form of internet is being shared and our image is being shared. So somebody would probably have a take on this, on maybe the way we look, or if we're trying to be authentic, like sometimes just us being ourselves is some fun story that they want to share to show us that we're real, as opposed to always fabricating a certain way. Would love to get your take on how people manage their social presence today.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's this very fascinating pressure to have this almost fake appearance of perfection, or maybe it's not, but for most people, they're not living in perfection all of the time. It's just not realistic. And so I think you have to have a combination of real life and, all of these poised, perfect headshots, perfect lifestyle looks. But I do consider what gets posted before it goes up, because if your current state in your real life negates your message, you got to be careful putting that up there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the challenge. But I'm also a tricky one to ask, because I just don't desire to put my whole life on social media. So I do it really probably less than I should be doing it. But, we take the word shit out and we just make it work.
Well, and I agree with you on that. I think the interesting part is a lot of people, and specifically listeners to this show, they'll tell you part of their business is their online image and their brand and whatnot. So whether, to your point, there's a consistency factor. I think if people start to see the consistency, I'll use myself in this regard. every single interview for the last 4 years, I always wear a black t-shirt. It is just because that is, I've got like 100 of them, but it's also, that's the consistent method that I'll deal with. I go on stage now with a sport jacket and the black t-shirt. So it's basically so I could get down, and that's how people will always see you and recognize you. It's a recognition piece. It is, but it is a challenge when you're not like, who is that guy? So,
well, here's where I think people go wrong real quick. Like where you go wrong is when you are protecting the perfection and it's not even like what you look like.
Right.
Or they're 4 years ago pictures. And because what you're really protecting is like when somebody actually meets you in person, don't give them that like moment where they're like, wait, what? That's really what you're protecting in the social media image, I think.
Yeah. No catfishing, people, which I just learned is the whole term of whatever it is. I don't know why it's called catfishing, faking what you really are when you're not. Show a picture of you 40 years ago was probably not
right.
All right, Leigh, let's do Fun Street here on Thrive Loud. If you could, can you share with the listeners maybe what's an all-time favorite movie or one that it's a go-to that if it happens to be on, you're just drawn right in and that's the one you're going to watch?
Okay, so this is actually a hard question. Like, if I'm like literally scrolling and like Sweet Home Alabama is on, I will totally watch that. But I really am a documentary nerd. Oh, okay. And my favorite documentary is a fashion image thing. It's called Dior and I. And it's the most amazing follow of a brand and a man, I think.
Awesome. I like it.
It's on Amazon Prime.
Gotcha. For those that were keeping track. And thank you for sharing that because...
I mean, let's find out. Yeah, go watch it.
The biggest challenge I have right now is someone will tell me a show to watch or a movie to see. And my wife and I have this conversation all the time. We have no idea which one it is. And you have all of them and you can't figure out, I got to go to this network. It's on that one. I don't subscribe to this one. Do I want to? Big challenge here. Too many options, too much content.
It's true.
All right, we're going to do the speed round here. We're going to take a little stroll down Fun Street. It's kind of like you're coming from Charleston. It's like going down all the fun little restaurants or food places. But this is our own little speakeasy pub crawl where we're stopping in. We're going to take a shot at gumption and answer all the fun questions. First thing that comes to your mind. You listen to the show. You're a fan of the program, so you know how this goes. Let's see what your answers are. Here we go. Of late, a song that you love to listen to or one that's like your jam.
This is cliche because we're talking about image, but there's a song called New Shoes by Paolo Nutini. And it's just,
I know that one.
I love it. Yeah. And it's
awesome.
Fun.
Favorite food that's not a dessert?
Sushi.
Favorite dessert?
Creme brulee.
An activity you wish you did more of?
Riding horses more.
Gotcha. An activity you wish you did less of?
Cooking.
A new activity, one you've recently tried that you like so much you want to tell everybody else to try.
I did think about this and I'm like, I don't even know. That's sad.
There's got to be some new activity that you've done. You've done something for the first time within the last year. Got to be one.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm so boring.
We'll pin it as we'll figure out what coming up with a new activity might be your new activity. Yes. That might be my new favorite activity is trying to figure out what that new activity might be. If I could snap my fingers and Leigh Hayward could be anywhere in the world, where is she?
Costa Rica.
Yeah, that answer is popping up a bunch. We just got that when we had the two guests on recently, Shannon and Matthew Mismer. They said the same exact thing. Costa Rica. I was just there 2 years ago. Love it. It's great. Can't go wrong. Really good food too. Great fruit. Amazing fruit.
Yeah.
Maybe even better coffee, but I was also in Colombia, so that's not fair. Anyway, Leigh Hayward. Everybody check it out. Prosperous Image, strategically suited. Thank you so much for coming on Thrive Loud. Great to have you. Continued success to you. Get on more horses. Go keep riding. And next time I'm in Charleston, we're going to meet up at one of those many restaurants that we all love.
I would love it. I would love it.
It's awesome. To all the listeners out there, thank you for joining us. Until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
Excuse, 'cause I'm wearing my brand new shoes.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.